What up, gang? Carolina Jackpot time coming at you on Saturday morning. I hope everybody's doing good today. Back with the driving to work college football videos. I haven't made these in a few days, a hot minute actually. Excuse me. Backstory, my truck needed a couple of tires. It needed one up on the front. Had worn down a little bit, and then if you'll remember back during the hurricane, I hit a tree and broke the seal on the tire with the rim there when I bent the rim, and we took the spare and put it on and been using that for several months. Now these aren't spares, like this is not a donut on this truck like you would have on a car for a spare tire. This is a regular full-size tire, but we still needed a spare put under here and needed a new rim for it, so got that done the beginning of this week, and that truck was out of commission for me for a couple of days. I had to borrow one, and it was one of the bigger, large box trucks, which are great to work out of, but they're extremely uncomfortable to drive, especially if you've got to go a long way, which I'm driving an hour and some change to get to my route every day. That just is, yeah, it's not good. So you need something comfortable to drive. I'm back in something comfortable. Not that this is the most comfortable vehicle in the world, but it's pretty dang nice for driving around doing route work. So we'll take it back in the saddle with that. Top 25 list, college football coaches. On3 Sports released this over on Twitter the other day, and it's just one writer whose name was attributed to this, so I don't know if this is just his handiwork or if this is a consensus of all the On3 folks. There's some things on here that I agree with, some that I disagree with. There's some omissions here that I don't agree with either. This is the list of the top 25 coaches in the sport of college football, and I'm going to offer up some commentary on this stuff. You can let me know down below whether you agree or whether you disagree. Who would you move around? Who would you take off this list? Who would you potentially put on this list? What would you do different? Number one, they've got Kirby. Now, I don't have any problem with this being here as number one. He's won 2 national championships back-to-back, competed for another one. And in the grand scheme of it all, Kirby hasn't been he hasn't been a head coach for all that many years, right? I think this is his 10th season, I believe. He started in 2016, so that would make this either his... I get that confused sometimes. 2016 was 9 years ago, but they'll say this would be his 10th season in college football. That's weird. I think this is his 10th season. Anyway, he's oh, Lord. Here we go, down one of those roads full of potholes again. I missed a turn back there talking to y'all, so I had to go this way out, so I added about a mile to my trip. When you're driving 50-something of them, it doesn't really matter, though, I don't guess. The argument against him being at number one might be, I don't know. The past couple of seasons, it seems like he hasn't always had his team ready to play. Every time they take the field, some disappointing performances against some competition that they should mop the field up with, i.e. Kentucky last year, i.e. getting blown out by Ole Miss. But he's still getting the job done, still recruiting at an extremely high level, producing NFL talent, and winning big games. I think that this season overall for the Georgia fan was a disappointment, although you did make the 12-team college football playoff, got a bye in the first round, but you kind of exited that playoff in just really a popcorn fart type manner. It was almost as if you weren't even there. Now, I'm not trying to knock Georgia here, but I think any sane Georgia fan will tell you that this was not, they were kind of disappointed with the way that the season ended up playing out. But I mean, if you looked at the way the regular season went with some of the inconsistencies, this could probably you could probably tell this was coming. Number 2, Ryan Day. Now, if you put Ryan Day at number 1, And I really wouldn't have a problem with it. I mean, he did just win the most recent national championship that the sport had to offer. This came on the heels of losing to Michigan once again. And these Ohio State people, they put too many eggs, too many expensive ass, $5 a dozen eggs. Maybe they're more where you're at. Maybe it's Donald Trump's fault that they're so expensive. Yeah, he killed all those birds. Anyway, putting all those eggs in the Michigan basket, you really do. In fact, I think losing to Michigan this past season probably was the best thing that could have happened to Ohio State. Got them refocused. People were actually talking about firing this guy if they lost to Tennessee in the college football playoff first round at home. Looking back at that now, it's almost laughable to think that people actually thought that was going to happen, and there was a legitimate chance of it. Tennessee fans thought it was going to happen. No, they had a Google Earth map drawn up of your stadium and the surroundings and the route they were going to take to dump your goalposts in the river. And they just learned how to do screenshots on the computer the other day, and so they're playing with it like a kid with a new toy. But Ryan Day at number 2. Final Wins the Illusion. Once again, another one who's recruiting at an extremely high level, bringing in some top-notch talent. Jeremiah Smith. That dude may have been, that may have been the best true freshman player that I've ever seen. And it's hard because I don't like Ohio State. I don't really like to give them a whole lot of compliments, but that guy's legit. He really is. He's gas. Number 3, Dabo. It's easy to shoehorn him in here at number 3 because he's paid the 3rd highest salary in the country. If we're going to look at the body of work, the last couple of 3 years, are we really... is he number 3 head coach in the country? I don't think he is. Now, if you put this list out in 2021, I would agree with you. I might even say, hey, bump him up to number 2 behind Kirby. Look at everything he's done. Those 2 national championships he won, they're getting further and further in the rearview mirror. And yeah, I know that Clemson fans are all excited because they think Dabo's turned some kind of corner, that he's finally gotten with the times, that he's going to do stuff that everybody else is doing now. Yeah, in terms of the transfer portal, in terms of embracing the NIL culture of college football. Yeah, but here's the thing. He's 2 to 3 years behind where all these other high-level college football coaches were, or he's 2 to 3 years behind where they are in terms of their trajectory of their way of thinking on that. So, just continue to be 2 to 3 years behind. You even had Clemson fans out there tweeting out things like this. He's really cooked this offseason. He's really cooked. What's he cooking? Oatmeal. He signed one decent player out of the transfer portal. He fired an assistant coach, and he hired another one. Man, these are uncharted waters that Dabo's sailing in right now, guys. I'm going to tell you what. This is revolutionary in the world of college football for the Dabo man. But number 3, I don't agree with. They've got Steve Sarkisian at number 4. Despite the kind of personal problems that he had a little earlier in his career, he seems to have really turned that around. And really, really good offensive mind, a really good recruiter, got that program headed in the right direction. Just, they're missing like 1 or 2 pieces this past season. And people seem to forget their running game, developed really good during the season, but their number 1 running back went down right at the beginning of fall camp. So they were out that young man. I right now personally would put him ahead of Dabo. But that's just Carolina Jackpots. And you can say I'm biased if you want to. But right now, just look at the way things are with these 2. I would put him. Marcus Freeman's at number 5. I didn't know that I was going to like Marcus Freeman. And somebody out there, some idiot out there will say, you don't like black kid coaches. That's why you said that. That's not why. When he first came on the scene, I was like, I mean, what is this? I mean, this guy's not fiery. I'm like, he doesn't really inspire me. If I'm listening to him talk, I mean, he really sounds soft-spoken. I'm like, you played college football, dude? I'm like, or were you on the flute team? I mean, he just really didn't seem like the type. But this season kind of sold me on Marcus Freeman, and they snuck the camera in there for some of his pregame speeches. And don't judge a book by its cover, because he really can deliver verbally messages to his team to get them fired up. I mean, it would get me fired up. I mean, I'm like, shit, I mean, I'd go run through a damn brick fence to play for that dude. I mean, and just the cohesion that him and his staff have developed there with those teams, the improvements they've made on both lines of scrimmage that kind of got them to that next level. Notre Dame's normally had a pretty good running game, kind of always been kind of on the passing game. We're talking about like here for a while. I mean, we're talking about like over the past 25, 30 years. I mean, it's been kind of the same type deal. And they're still stuck in that kind of a deal. One thing I will say, him and his staff, they need to develop an actual Notre Dame homegrown quarterback and use them. There's too much of these coaches going out, buying a fucking quarterback every damn year and recycling one. How is a young quarterback, how are you supposed to make it when everybody just keeps shuffling around these older quarterbacks? How do you get to be one of those dudes? And it seems like all of them cut their teeth at a lower level school. Riley Leonard cut his teeth at Duke. Sam Hartman cut his teeth at Wake Forest. We see now this Minsom kid from Tulane cut his teeth there. Now he's moved up to Duke. I guarantee you he'll have a good year at Duke. He's going to be in the portal again next year, and he'll be somewhere else. He'll be at Auburn or somewhere like that. They're almost taking progressions anymore like coaches are, from group of 5 job to lower level power 5 job to higher level power 5 job. So I'd like to see Marcus Freeman. Notre Dame has the draw, they have the tradition, they have the resources here, they have the coaching staff, they have the development pieces that should be able to develop a homegrown quarterback and turn him into a star without having to go to the portal, spend a bunch of money to get Duke's quarterback every year. And it seems like they may be doing that this year, but there's still a spring portal window, so one will have to see what goes on with that. Dan Lanning at number 6. I don't know. I can't say that I disagree with that a whole lot. One of the better young coaches in the game. Hasn't won a playoff game, though. James Franklin, the guy they've got behind him at number 7, has won a playoff game. So, I mean, and damn near made the national championship game. Dan Lanning got blown out in this playoff game. So we really, if I was there, they have James Franklin at 7, which I just alluded to. James Franklin just can't ever get over the hump. There's just something there. I don't know if it's just bad timing. I really don't know what it is. I really don't know why he can't get over the hump. But I still, if you had to give me one of those two to coach my team, and it was as if my football fandom depended on it, I would probably go with Franklin. I'd probably go with the more experienced coach there. I would probably flip-flop those two. And you know, and if I sat down with this long enough, I could probably just redraw the whole thing and map it out my way. But just for, you know, quick purposes, I would flip-flop those two. Brian Kelly at number 8. mean, I don't have a problem with that. Brian Kelly's been a winner everywhere he's been. I mean, has he won at a high level everywhere he's been? No. Has he realized his, in my opinion, coaching potential? No, I don't think he has. I mean, I think Brian Kelly could be a coach capable of winning a national championship. There's just too much hoop. I don't want to say hoopla and hype. It's not that. There's just too much drama involved with him. He acts kind of acts like a baby sometimes. I'll throw some temper tantrums. I mean, I've done that too, but I don't get paid $10 million a year to coach football either. Seems kind of emotionally immature a little bit, maybe. Maybe some of the things that people were saying about Shane Beamer. Maybe Brian Kelly is just like an older version of that. You know, with the slamming his hands down on the table in the press conferences and the constant excuse making, and then he's tied up in this whole thing about the kid who was playing for him and he had the brain cancer, and then the parents suing, or the father suing. They didn't mention the kid's mom. I don't know. All I've heard is talk of his dad, but then again, I haven't dived into that story a whole lot. That Brian Kelly didn't call and check on him enough, or didn't call. They say they didn't call and check on him at all. And then the LSU fans are trying to say, well, he sued them. He sued the school. He sued Brian Kelly. So he hadn't sued him before. You didn't supposedly talk to him. I don't know. And that could that be a lie? Could the kid's family be making that up? Maybe. I mean, I don't see the kid making it up. I mean, he's sick, right? I mean, his kid's got brain cancer. He ain't sitting here worrying about making up lies, for God's sake. So he's drawn up in that. And he was also drawn up in that thing, if you remember, a few years ago, like, well, it was when he was at Notre Dame, like something about making the videographer climb up in some tower at practice. And he didn't want to climb up in the tower because it was windy, and people had said, well, the tower could fall over in the wind. And so he was adamant about not going up there. Brian Kelly was adamant about him going up there. And then the tower blew over, and he died. That's crazy. First of all, how do you have a tower at a football facility that I don't understand how you have a tower that could just blow over in the wind? Isn't a tower is pretty much supposed to be able to withstand all? And I'm not trying to be funny here, but I mean, outside of like winds, like hurricane force winds or something of that nature, you would think that a tower would be able to stand in just the wind. That's kind of, I don't understand what happened with that deal either. I didn't read up on that one too, so I'm not going to really talk about it that much more. But for what he's done on the field, Brian Kelly at number 8, I don't have a problem with. I think he could end up at some point being higher on this list if he'd ever get his shit together. But I don't know. It doesn't look like he's going to. And if he has any more subpar seasons at LSU, he's probably going to find himself with a pink slip, because the fans there, the high dollar boosters, they expect more out of that program at LSU. And they want to be in the playoffs every year, and it's not just a want to; they should be. LSU, Louisiana is one of the top high school recruiting grounds in the country in terms of football talent. There's really no excuse for not picking up really, really good players every single year, and they are. But are they being developed? I don't know. He's had some head-scratching losses, had some good wins. Kalen DeBoer at number 9. This one at the beginning of the year, or before the season started, I defended Kalen DeBoer when everybody, Alabama fans included, were predicting the end of the program Nick Saban is gone. Things are going to fall apart. This guy's going to fall on his face. He's going to be fired after the first year. He's horrible. Did you see him? He was just in the national championship game and he lost it. I mean, and I've championed. Well, look at his record over the years. Here's his record at Fresno State. Here's his record at the Division III school. Here's his record at Washington. And it's all pretty dang good. Here's how he goes out and has his worst year at Alabama last year. Finishes up with a 9-4 record, 9-3 regular season, embarrassing losses to Vanderbilt and Jesus. How do you lose to Oklahoma? That was worse than the loss to Vanderbilt. It played out that way. The Vanderbilt loss for them in name, that it's Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt is just associated with like the stinking diaper of football programs. Well, they really shouldn't be, because they had a really good team this past season for Vanderbilt standards. But that's where they're always going to be grouped. People are going to look at that just on paper and say, well, losing to Oklahoma's not that. It was. Oklahoma's team was terrible. They were absolute, homemade, unfiltered hot dog water bullshit. They were bad. And you lost to them by 3 scores. That, to me, in of itself, takes him out of the top 10 here. I think he might be just a little bit high on this list for what he's done at Alabama this past season. I mean, you still have a loaded roster and kind of woefully underperformed their guy. So I think you may have Kalen DeBoer a couple of notches too high on this list. Lane Kiffin is at number 10. Don't like Lane Kiffin in terms of as a person, in terms of as a football coach. I don't like him with the flopping, with the whole trolling people. Just the bullshit. He seems like just a sleazy ass fucker that would sooner stab you in the back than look at you. But the results kind of speak for themselves. I just barely missed out on the college football playoff. They have him at number 10. He's ranked just ahead of Josh Heupel at number 11. And I've made no bones about the way I feel about Tennessee either. I can't stand the program. Their fans, look, a lot of them come around this channel. A lot of y'all are great. I really do. I love you to death. Some of your fans are just freaking annoying as hell, and I just sooner see them go away somewhere. I don't know that I would rank Josh Heupel below Lane Kiffin. Maybe it's the innovative way Lane uses the transfer portal that gets him just slightly above Josh Heupel. Maybe he is more experienced than Josh Heupel. I think he's probably age-wise, how much older is Lane? Probably 8-10 years older than Heupel. Maybe not quite that much. I don't know. But these two, they're kind of interchangeable there. Like, not as in terms of what they're doing, but with these spots here. Heupel did make the college football playoff, though. Now, he got blown out in it, but he did make it. So we've got to give him that. Finishing up with a 10-2 record in the regular season. Lane, you finished up at 9-3. But Lane's teams looked better at many points during the season. It was definitely more fun to watch this past season. Was Tennessee football fun to watch for you? If you're not a Tennessee fan, it wasn't for me. And I can tell you too, the previous couple years, I didn't like Tennessee, obviously, but I mean, I'm still going to watch their games because they were fun to watch. This past season, they weren't fun to watch. I mean, it was boring old man football. Barely getting by in some games against teams that I felt they were much better than, i.e. Kentucky, right? I.e. Florida. Josh Heupel's got to get over that Florida deal too. Tennessee's a better football program right now than Florida is. You're not behaving like it. You did beat them this past season, but you're still not behaving like it. You know what I'm talking about. Curt Cignetti at number 12. I think this may be a little bit high. And this guy has coached what? This was his first and only Power. Was this on? Yeah, this is the only Power 5. Oh, I was saying Power 5. It's Power 4. Power 4 season. Finished up with a really, really good record. Ended up going to the college football playoffs. You got blown out. The only valid team that you played all year long at Ohio State, they blew you out. And you got blown out in those playoffs. It was 27-17 its final score. You were behind 27-3 with about 10 minutes left in that ball game. Maybe less than 10 minutes left in that ball game. And then they score. They recover an onside kick. They score again. Notre Dame's probably this prevent type deal. They're just ready to get out of there. They're ready for this one to be done. Let's move on to the next game. They probably got a few scrubberoos in there playing. Indiana gets a couple of cheap scores. And then these people, these writers, these people in media will tell you, well, look at Indiana. Look how close. I mean, look how they played Notre Dame close. I mean, they're not that far off. Look at this. Look at it. And what they did. They only lost by 10. But then these are the same media people who are sitting here watching this game and watching this blowout an hour earlier. You sat here and watched them get blown out for 3.5 quarters and some change. And then they come with a couple of garbage time scores and make the thing look closer than it really was. And you act like, oh, look, like they hung with Notre Dame. No, they didn't. Got blown out. Got blown out by Ohio State. So my point being, yeah, they had a really good year. They dominated teams that they have not dominated in the past. They dominated teams that nobody thought they were going to dominate before the season started. They ran through that like shit through a screen fence. And how in the world they just totally are just that badly outclassed against teams when they move up a level in competition is head-scratching, but it also renders it to me that this guy's not deserving of number 12. I mean, I'm not saying he's not a top 25 guy, but he definitely needs to be bumped down here in like the 20 range. He has not done enough yet. There's not a large enough time. And I know they won a bunch of games. James Madison, Carolina Jackpot. I think we're talking about your Power 4 accomplishments here. I think that's what we're talking about. I mean, it's a Power 4 list. So, I mean, there's no North Dakota State's coach is not on here. So correct me if I'm wrong. Here's a head scratcher for me, and it's not just because of what happened in our bowl game. It's because of what's happened the past 10 years. Brett Bielema, Fat Bert at number 13. Where did you come up with this? Look, Bert had a nice season this past year. He had a nice season a couple years ago. But that's sandwiching. What the hell has he done other than that? He got fired from his job at Arkansas for being terrible. They hired him from Wisconsin. That seemed like a head-scratching hire to me. I don't see this guy as number 13. I'm sorry, I just don't. There are plenty of coaches on here that are ranked below him that I would take over Brett Bielema. Probably the one at number 14, right below him, Kyle Whittingham. Kind of an old, grizzled veteran. I think he's probably going to hang it up before too long. But this guy, up until last year, all he kept doing was winning and winning and winning. Now, they had the whole weird thing with Cam Rising, the quarterback. He's going to be back this week. And then he didn't come back. He's going to come back next week. No, he's not coming back. He's got this. Just the whole deal of allowing him to. And I'm not. He got hurt. So there's that. But the whole deal with that, I mean, why don't we. I mean, you know. Why are you so afraid to move on from this guy and let's just build an offense around somebody else? They didn't look very good this year. Maybe that's why. Because he wasn't there. I mean, at some point. We've got to move on from the Cam Rising deal. I don't know if I was a head coach. I might tell him well, hey, when you get better, let's plan on shopping around elsewhere for a place to play your 16th year, because I got a program here I got to run. My man can't keep depending on you. Outside of that, though, his accomplishments have been extremely good. I mean, went to a couple of Rose Bowls there with Utah. And he recruits at a much lower level. He has much less resources to work with than a lot of these other coaches do there. So Kyle Whittingham at number 14, I don't have a problem with. If he'd had a good season this past year, in fact, I think he would be higher on this list. Number 15 is Matt Campbell. Matt Campbell is kind of a good comeback story this past year. You know, Matt came over from, where was it? He was a MAC coach somewhere. I want to say maybe it was Toledo, to Iowa State. Had a couple of really good years. This was 2017-ish, 2018-ish. Became a really hot name in the coaching circles to move up to a better Power 5 job, and Power 4. Power 5 then, though, job, and it just never happened for him. I don't know if the money wasn't right. I don't know if he liked being in. I've heard a lot of people before, well, not a lot of people, I've heard it from maybe 4 on the internet, talking about Ames, Iowa, and being there, and how much they enjoy, or how much they enjoyed their time in Ames, Iowa, if they spent times there, or that they currently are enjoying their time in Ames, Iowa. So it sounds like a special place. I mean, I would imagine that it's quiet, probably pretty relatively stress-free. None of these jobs are going to be stress-free, but much less than some. The expectations are not as high. And I'm sure Matt Campbell is revered in Ames, Iowa. Though you may never see him move to somewhere better. But he was kind of a comeback story. I think they were like 4-8 in 2023, which was a really poor record for, what's a poor record for anybody, but it's especially poor for Iowa State, considering what they've done in previous seasons under Campbell. But he makes a big comeback this year. They win the Pop-Tarts Bowl against the Miami Hurricanes, who would have beaten them if Cam Ward had decided not to quit on his team in the second half and not play the rest of that game. But Matt Campbell, good coach. Used to call him good young coach. He's not a good young coach anymore. He's not so young anymore. To him be at number 15 is, I believe, fair. And I think that if he had taken one of these Power 4 jobs at some point in the past and became successful, he'd be higher up on this list and even more highly thought of there. Number 16 on this list, we've got Lance Leopold from Kansas. This was one of, I don't really know a whole lot about him other than what he did at Buffalo and what he's done so far at Kansas. I believe he spent some time working at a Division III school, Wisconsin Whitewater, maybe was the name of it. But immediate turnaround at Kansas in a program that had been just horrendous before he got there, 15 years maybe since Kansas had been to a bowl game. Remember when Kansas went to the Orange Bowl that time under Mark Mangino? It was kind of a weird time. The big renovation project to their stadium, right? They basically tore down the entire stadium except for like one set of bleachers. It's a state-of-the-art renovation. I've showed a concept of it last year in a video. I'm not sure if that thing's going to be ready this year or if they're going to play their home games away from that stadium again this season. But one could argue that you probably wouldn't see that renovation happening if it weren't for the success that Lance Leopold brought to that program. At least not right now. So I think this guy may be ranked a little bit too low. I think he should be up here maybe where Curt Cignetti's at number 12. Just a thought. Number 17 was a head scratcher for me, Sharon Moore. I'm sorry. First of all, this guy, no success at Michigan other than beating Ohio State on teams that he's coached, not with Jim Harbaugh. Meaning, after he took over as head coach, things did not improve. And I know, yeah, you lost some talent. Yeah, well, so what? You got a huge budget. You got a huge NIL. You got a huge everything. You can go out and get some players. Didn't do it. Then you've got the whole cheating thing. I mean, I think he's phony. You remember the crying that he did last year after the what was it? I think they beat Penn State. About in the middle of the season when Harbaugh was suspended, and you know, he goes and says, well, you know, we did this for you, and he's crying, and it's just the whole thing was just a charade. I don't believe he's any more genuine than a man in a damn moon. Shane Beamer, he's cried at press conferences. I believe Shane Beamer's genuine, at least when he cries. It doesn't mean that it's a great look. It doesn't mean that I particularly like it, nor do a lot of fans like it. But this guy, I think, is disingenuous. I think he's a liar. He's deleting text messages from Connor Stallions, claiming that he had no idea of any of this. It's bullshit. It's full of it. At number 17, please tell me what he's done. And this is just a ranking. And you look at it, this guy just ranked these coaches. There's no write-up here about this. At least I couldn't find one. Please tell me what quantifies this guy to be ranked anywhere near a top 25, let alone number 17, because I'm not getting it. He's been a head coach for exactly 1 year, and he would not have even gotten this position if it weren't for the cheating scandal. Jim Harbaugh hightailed it out of town. The first offer that he got from the NFL, he was out on the first thing smoking. So it's not like he worked his way into this role. I think it's bullshit. Number 18, Lincoln Riley. I mean, multiple playoff appearances, multiple trend-setting offenses. You can't argue with it. You can't also argue with, had he shown some interest in developing a decent defense at some damn point in time throughout his career, either at USC or at Oklahoma, probably be higher up on this list. In fact, as an offensive mind, he probably deserves to be ranked higher on this list. However, he's not. Number 18 is probably about where Lincoln Riley needs to be. Tons of potential, hell of a ceiling. He's going to have to get a defense. He's going to have to get something developed there at some point in time. Just like we said, you know, Dabo Swinney has got to adapt and use the transfer portal. Well, Lincoln Riley has got to find some semblance of a defense, or he's never going to be successful, or at least not to the degree that he should be. Number 19 is Chris Kleiman. Coach you don't hear a whole lot from. He's kind of in that the Lance Leopold, Matt Campbell, Kyle Whittingham type tier of coach there. I guess it would almost be like the, I don't know how to describe it, boring white dude. Boring white dude tier. Not, I don't know how else to describe that. I mean, wins football games, is always going to put a good product on the field. Is always going to put a tough and well-coached product on the field. Nothing flashy, a lot of guts. Kind of like the Arn Anderson of college football coaches. It's just a damn workhorse. It's just a workhorse, and not much else. Not a lot of flash there. Chris Kleiman at number 19. Now Kleiman could be climbing. Develop a few more. Find a few more skilled players in that portal, or develop a few more at home. It's hard to recruit to Kansas State. You know, there's not a lot at Kansas State to offer a recruit. I mean, I'm not talking about in terms of money. I'm talking about in terms of just environment, I guess, and you know, it's not like, you know, the college towns, Ann Arbor, Michigan, Seattle, Washington, Austin, Texas. These are places that can offer a recruit something outside of football, other than somewhere like Manhattan, Kansas. Number 20 on the list here, Kenny Dillingham, head coach at Arizona State. So we had a pop year last season on the legs of Cam Scattered Boo Boo. But they ended up in the playoffs, pushed Texas to the limit, didn't they? Actually, we're getting blown out. Let's just be honest. They were getting blown out. And then Scattered Boo Boo kind of took the game on his legs and shoulders and back and his arm. Threw a touchdown pass too. But it was not to be. I don't know if they can replicate that success. You know, this is considered one of the hottest young coaches in the game. I mean, it had a terrible year the season before at Arizona State, however. So I mean, we need to see more of a sample size from him. I'm sure he has a high ceiling, but I don't know. I don't know that he makes my top 25 just based off one really good year. You've got to put a string together and be consistent in this deal. Although, I mean, making the playoffs the way they did, having the season they had, maybe it merits something. I mean, maybe I dropped this guy a little bit to maybe 25, but I mean, he seems to be doing everything right. I ain't hating it, but I'm not loving this ranking either. Number 21, Deion Sanders. I mean, you knew he had to be in here somewhere, right? Somebody just penciled him in, is basically what happened here. I mean, the only thing this guy can do is brings some decent skill players from the portal. You know, other than that, I'm not sold on his ability to put together a defense. I'm not sold for damn sure on his ability to put together any kind of lines of scrimmage. I'm also not for damn sure how long he's committed to the job at Colorado. Sons are both gone. Travis Hunter's going to be gone. Several other pieces there are going to be gone. I think this team definitely takes a step back. I don't think he deserves to be ranked in the top 25. That's just me. I'm not being an asshole here, but you know, one really good year with it was a really good year for him. And you can see what happened there. One thing I will say they did do right is he got the focus off the me type shit in the program this past season, and they just kind of settled down to playing football. You know, there wasn't all the ha-ha, all the hoopla, all the crap that has nothing to do with playing football on Saturday. I mean, we did see a little bit of it, the deal where they didn't want the album, what was it? They didn't want the alma mater or the fight song or something to be played, demanding that they play Shadur's rap solo instead of that. I don't know how that ever turned out. It doesn't seem like it would work out real well. And you're still an employee of this school, if we're being just honest about it here. But yeah, number 21 for Deion seems to be, I don't think he's deserving of that myself. Number 22, Mario Cristobal's. I mean, I'm surprised it's actually not a little bit higher on this list. I mean, the guy can put a team together. I mean, there's no doubt about it. Just some of the in-game coaching decisions are just mind-boggling. And for all the great recruiting you do, for all the, as I mentioned, putting a great roster together, piss poor clock management, piss poor in-game decisions, no discipline, which I think we saw there, kind of you shoot yourself in the foot, and all that is just flushed down the toilet in one fell swoop or one fell flush. The quitting at halftime deal, which I'll speak on that here in just a second, not a good look. Not a good look to allow your players to do that. And this is something that I believe Mario Cristobal's knew about. He knew this was happening. So, and he allowed it to happen. He allowed his team to lose a game on the arms and legs of a backup quarterback who simply wasn't ready. Number 23, Kirk Ferentz, Iowa. Another one in the boring old white dude category. That, I mean, he does nothing but win. I mean, they consistently are going to win 8 games a year and make the Outback Bowl. That's what Iowa do. That's what they do. Now, they might not win said bowl game. They're never going to win the Big Ten. They're never going to have the skill talent. Now, this past season, they did have a really good running back there. But they're never going to have the complement of great receivers, great running game, great quarterback, all at one time, in my opinion. They're always going to have a solid defense. It was a really, really good defense, and that kind of scaled back a little bit this past year, and more of the focus shifted to, can we get an offense on the field? He's been there forever. He's got to be, and I'm looking at this list, I think that he's probably the most tenured head coach on this list. In fact, I know he is. He's got to be. He's been there for like 25 years, or at least 23 years, which is his ranking on here. No, he's been there at least 25 years. He might, in fact, be closer to 30. But it probably is never going to climb any higher than this. I mean, how much longer he has as a head coach, I don't know. But they're going to continue to win 7, 8, 9 ball games a year and have solid teams that don't do anything flashy, that you're not going to be dropping the baby and rushing to the TV to watch every Saturday, but are just going to consistently win games. Number 24, one that I kind of wasn't even thinking about, Jeff Brom at Louisville. I mean, I can see it. This is not a bad decision here to put him here. Jeff Brom, of course, returns to Louisville where he played at from Purdue. I mean, this is the only guy in recent memory to have Purdue, producing some winning seasons. So I like this one. He's another one here that doesn't seem like wants to really pull in a. Y'all see me looking around. I'm looking, checking out different stores around here in this area. He doesn't seem to really relish developing a quarterback as much as he does just going out and getting one. So they went and got, his name escapes me, to be the quarterback this year at Louisville. Last year was Tyler Shuck from Texas Tech. He had a good year. Jeff Brom at number 24, always going to have skill talent there. Defensive side of the ball, not so sure about. Lines of scrimmage, okay. And then number 25, Eli Drinkwitz. I don't know. I could make the argument Eli might be a little further up this list. I might make the argument Eli doesn't belong on this list, but that's kind of hard to say. He doesn't belong on this list currently. He's had 2 back-to-back double-digit win seasons. Won a Cotton Bowl over Ohio State in 23 last year. Wins 9 games, and then with the 10th win in the bowl game against the aforementioned Iowa Hawkeyes. He rubs people the wrong way with the dorky personality, with the shenanigans, with the smart assery. But the thing is, he's able to get players in there, and they really just, the players that he has in his fold really love this guy and would do just about anything for him. So that does count for something there. So I'm not sure how high his ceiling is. And like, I don't know that. I mean, I think he may have reached his apex. You know, that with the Luther Burdens and the Brady Cooks. I mean, they were these extremely talented teams. This one kind of took a step back from last year's team. I'm not sure how much further they can go. I mean, I think the 10-win teams may be about the ceiling for Mizzou going forward under Drinkwitz. There's something missing there. But top 25 coach, yeah, right now, I would definitely place him in here. So that's that. And what do you guys agree with? What do you disagree with? I'm telling you right now, I don't agree with Shane Beamer not being on this list. Say what you want. The guy's been in South Carolina 4 full years. Every year he has exceeded the Vegas win total he was given in the offseason, except for one. You know, he's built a heck of a culture there. He's used the portal pretty smart. And this year, we're even starting to see, well, the past 2 years, really, we're seeing less and less attrition from South Carolina to the portal, and making some pretty good gains in it. So that kind of speaks to the culture there. Recruiting this past season, really good class that needs to get better. Needs to get up to SEC. I think they're ranked number 18th nationally. Probably finished 9th or 10th in the SEC, though, with that number, maybe even 12th. So I do think that he deserves merit to be here. I mean, I want to go ahead and say, having Deion Sanders on this list and Beamer not being included on this list is ridiculous. Having Sharon Moore on the list, Beamer's not on this list, ridiculous. Yeah, I know. He carried you to the national championship in interim status. That was Jim Harbaugh's team. It was Jim Harbaugh's team. He was pulling the strings. Sharon Moore, just a puppet. Just a puppet. You know, I could argue that Beamer's done more than Jeff Brom. I could argue that Beamer's done more than Burt Bielema. 13, really? That's the one that makes the least amount of sense to me. I think he's way too high. How you can have Burt Bielema ranked 3 spots ahead of Lance Leopold is just retarded, in my opinion. How you can have Burt Bielema really ahead of Lincoln Riley and Chris Kleiman. It's criminal, ridiculous. Kalen DeBoer, way too high, given last year's results. Kurt Signetti, way too high. We need to wait and see here. Kyle Whittingham, I think possibly too low. I think was kind of knocked down a little bit due to a bad season last year. So anyway, that's about what I've got to say about that, guys. Tell me what you think about this list. Where would you rank people at? Who do you think's not on this list that should be? Shane Beamer, to me, is the one that sticks out because, quite frankly, it was the one that made me the maddest when I saw that he was not, I mean, well, none of the rest of it would make me mad not being included on here. And I'm trying to think of who's not on here right now. You know, Jonathan Smith, not on the list. Jonathan Smith pulled the Oregon State program up by the bootstraps. Yeah, he's at Michigan State right now, and they didn't have a good year. It's going to take a little bit of time. I mean, Jonathan Smith could have deserved a little bit of consideration here, along with Beamer. I think Brent Key is approaching consideration at some point. He's got to be in the 30s somewhere. Clark Lee, it's probably a little too soon right now with him. They just had the one good season. And Brent Key's just had really the one good season. However, 23 was a decent season for them as well. So I would think he's close to consideration for that. So anyway, you guys let me know down in the comment section below. Who's left off? Who's too high? Who's too low? And I'll see y'all later. Appreciate it. Peace. And I'm out of here. Go Gamecocks. Woo!